Hey, welcome to another edition of 310 to Left. Tom Caron from Nesson with you as we roll on here in October. If you're a Red Sox fan, October of 2024 is not one that you'll probably remember fondly. Not only did the Red Sox miss out on the playoffs for the third straight year and fifth time in 6 years, but we've had to sit around and watch the New York Yankees kind of roll through much of the playoffs here. And you can't help but scratch your head and wonder when the Red Sox are going to be back to playing October baseball and playing deep into October in the postseason, like they did 20 years ago. 20 years ago this week, the World Series between the Red Sox and St. Louis Cardinals began. And that happened, of course, because of the greatest comeback in baseball history, the 7-game ALCS between the Red Sox and Yankees, when the Sox became the first team in Major League history to rally from a 3-0 deficit to win a best-of-7 series. That entire run is being looked back on in a new documentary from Netflix. It's called The Comeback. It premieres Wednesday the 23rd to coincide with Game 1 of the American League Championship Series. We're going to have more on it in the weeks to come here on 310 to Left. But we want to begin the whole thing with the man who ended it, the closer, Keith Foulke, who had come to the Red Sox that season to help make the bullpen even stronger, and he did exactly that. An incredible run of outings for him, especially in the ALCS when he appeared in games 4, 5, and 6 on 3 consecutive days, throwing a total of 100 pitches over 5 innings, and then, of course, ultimately being on the mound to get the final outs in St. Louis and nail down a 3-0 win and a 4-game sweep of the Cardinals. So looking back on the World Series championship 20 years ago, the closer, Keith Foulke, the guest on this edition of 310 to Left. So October 23rd, the premiere of The Comeback on Netflix. Perfect date for that because 20 years ago on the 23rd was Game 1 of the World Series. Spoiler alert, it ends well for the Red Sox. And the man who was standing on the mound at the end joins us now, Keith Foulke. Foulke, first of all, how you doing?
TC, thanks for having me. I'm doing great. Enjoying the sunshine down here in Arizona. Where has 20 years gone? I guess I want to ask you in two ways. Does it feel like it's been 20 years? And when you're reunited with the guys, like you were on opening day and like you were apparently to get a preview of this show, does it feel like it was yesterday or does it feel like it was 20 years ago?
You know, it's the body tells me, yes, it was 20 years ago because there's lots of aches and pains. But, you know, as far as the head goes, it's really been a quick 20 years. And, you know, when you talk about going back and seeing a lot of those guys, we still act like a bunch of goofballs when we're together. So it's, you know, it keeps us close to being, you know, that childhood dream that we had.
Now, 99.9% of the world will never know what it's like to be standing on the mound at the end of a World Series or what it's like to win a World Series championship. But when we go to high school or college reunions, you know, you have a couple beers, you start telling the stories, and they kind of get bigger with age. What's it like when you guys get together? And it's just you, not pesky guys like me asking questions. But when you guys are behind closed doors now, 20 years later, what's it like when you reconnect with those guys?
You know, it's great, you know, because everybody kind of has their own angle, you know, because everybody was doing different things at the same time. But, you know, everybody has their own stories. And, you know, you get a couple guys on the team that love to tell stories with more flair than others. I'm sure we already know who those guys are. But, you know, it's just something that 20 years, you know, has gone by. But for us to still be able to remember that, we're still remembered, you know, throughout the world and Red Sox Nation and all that. It's, you know, it really is. It's an incredible honor, and, you know, I'm still privileged to be a part of that team.
You had such a sort of unique journey to get to Boston, right? Because you were on the other side of it in 2003. Yeah. David Ortiz hits that double in Game 4. We all run back to the West Coast with no day off, right? The Game 4 was on a Sunday. Game 5 was on a Monday. We all had to fly out and turn it right around. You wind up, as soon as that's over, you almost knew you wanted to come to Boston to be able to finish off what you had started, didn't you?
Yeah, I remember, after that happened, I remember my dad telling me, "Hey, Boston's going to want you, next year." And at that point, my body was hurting pretty bad, and I was still kind of a little bit bitter. So I'm like, whatever, I'm not going to deal with that now. But when I was sitting at home and I started watching the Yankees Red Sox series, I'm like, you know what? It's something. Maybe that is what I want. Maybe I want this big market team. I want a chance to win. Because after you lose a couple times in the playoff, it starts to sink in a little bit, and I'm like, no, I'm done losing. Let's do something. Let's get this done.
Dennis Eckersley, another guy who was a pretty good closer for Oakland and the Red Sox. He told me once that, and he came from Cleveland as a starter, right? But he said, man, when I got to Boston, it was like I was already a big leaguer, but this was the big leagues, like opening day in Fenway Park, being part of the team at Fenway Park. How different? I mean, you've been in Chicago at that point, the White Sox. You've been in Oakland. Now you're a member of the Red Sox on opening day in 04. How different was it, and what did it feel like?
Yeah, well, I think Eck hit it right on the head. When you get to Boston, Chicago was kind of a small market team. Oakland was a small market team, if you want to call them that. But when you get to Boston and and going there for years, as a visiting player, I already knew what it was about. But when you put on that Red Sox uniform, you definitely have to step it up. It's a different league. The pressure is on you 24/7. But like I said, it's one of those things. When I came here, I knew it. Bobby Orr gave me that call and he told me what it was like, to win. And so it's like one of those things, like I accepted the challenge, before I even signed the dotted line. It's like I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to be in the limelight. I wanted to play late into October.
All right, the casual flex of dropping Bobby Orr, and you got to follow up on that because I've always said when I started at Nesson in '95, and I don't know what year it was, but I was doing Bruins games first, and 4 or 5 years later, at some point I was at some charity golf tournament, and I hear, hey Tom, and I turn around and Bobby Orr is calling my name, and it was like that was a moment for me, right, as a kid from New England especially, but as a hockey guy, like. Bobby Orr knows who I am. Bobby Orr, what is it like when Bobby Orr calls you? Because I know you're a hockey fan. What was that like?
Yeah, well, that was when I came in that December of '03, what it was for my meeting with Theo and to meet the Red Sox and the organization and all that. I wanted to go see a Bruins game. Being a hockey fan, I've never lived in a hockey city besides minor league hockey, and I'm like, you know what, same thing. I want to get in this. I want to go see a real hockey game, original six team. They were out of town, so settled for the Celtics, which was still pretty cool. But when I got home, that the Red Sox had reached out to Bobby, they told him all this. They presented me with an Orr jersey when I left. But when I got home and my old Palm Pilot, whatever the phone was back then, I'm like, who's this calling me? And I'm like, holy cow, it was Bobby Orr. And he gave me, just a message for 3 or 4 minutes. But, he broke it down. He was real honest. And I remember leaving my closet, going out and telling the wife at the time, hey, pack your stuff. We're going to Boston. I mean, that was the final straw.
The end of '03 was so crushing, right? The walk-off in Game 7 at Yankee Stadium, Aaron Boone, all that. We get to spring training the following year, and the belief really was, like, they went out and got Kurt Schilling, they went out and got Keith Foulke. You added a guy at the top of the rotation, you added a guy at the back end of the bullpen. To know you were coming in, not just to help a team, but literally to help a team get over that final step and win a World Series. Was it exciting? Was it pressure? Like the early days in Boston, what was that like for you?
Yeah, well, it's always exciting and there's always pressure. I remember walking out of that clubhouse down in Fort Myers. You go out there and there's literally thousands of people lining the walkway to go out to the practice fields. And it's, this is 7:30, 8 o'clock on a Monday morning, whatever it was. I'm like, holy cow, like these people are legit. They are here to support us, and it was that was the first, those first steps into my Red Sox uniform and my Red Sox career. It's like, all right, let's go. These people want this, and they're going to expect nothing less.
You came in, it was a good bullpen, right? The pieces were already there.
Yeah.
They wanted a closer on the back end, but you had veterans. You had a Mike Timlin setting up in front of you. You had, Alan Embry on the left side. Like you had guys
who could get you the ball in the ninth inning. Tell me a little about that group and what that camaraderie out in the bullpen was like. Because if you don't get along in Fenway, you're in trouble because there ain't a whole lot of room to get away from everybody else out there.
Yeah, there's definitely no place to hide in that bullpen. But, what's funny, coming over and, stepping into the so-called closer role, Mike Timlin at the time already had a couple rings. He had been around forever. Embry been around forever. Mike Myers is down there, been around forever. So I'm going in there as one of the younger guys in the bullpen. But it was so reassuring knowing that you were with other guys who had been through the grind, right? They're not going to go out there and just tuck tail and run when things get tough. Like, they've done this, and they've done it for years at a very high level. So it was very reassuring to me, is like, you know what? I don't have to do all the work, go out there and get my outs, but I don't have to carry the load for the entire bullpen.
That team, kind of got off to a decent start. Then you basically went 3 months where you're playing about 500 ball. And this was a team expected to win everything, right? So there's, the crowd was getting restless back in Boston. Then, before, what was a week before the trade deadline, was the Varitek moment, right? The A-Rod Varitek.
Mm-hmm.
From your perspective, what did that do to the team? That was a weird day, right? It was raining, and they didn't think they were going to play. And Yankee guys were even starting to go back to the hotel because they thought the game was rained out. You wind up playing. It ends up being that crazy day. We look back at it and say that was the turning point. But what did it feel like in real time for you guys going through that, the comeback, beating Rivera, which maybe was a harbinger of what could happen in October? Do you remember that day? What it was like?
A little bit of it. I remember the fact that they didn't want to play and all that stuff, and like, hey, our starters are lined up. Let's get this done. But really, after all the dust up happened and everything was done, like you said, we had only been playing 500 balls, so we kind of got a little complacent, I think. And it was one of those things that somebody relit the candle. We realized where we were, what we had left to go in the season. And we knew we weren't where we wanted to be. We should have been leading that division, easily. But, that's why you play the games. So I think afterwards, and like you talked about, the trade deadline was around that time. Everything kind of came together, and we got together as a group. Like, boys, let's go. We're here for a reason. Let's go out there and do what we can. Let's start to take care of our business, and we'll see what happens.
They traded Nomar. For New Englanders, that was, it was almost unfathomable. You've probably heard that Theo Epstein gets a call from his brother screaming at him. You did what? Because he's, from here, right? Like, was that, that kind of jolted all of us to attention. What did that do in the clubhouse? That's kind of almost like, listen, no one's untouchable. They're really trying to do everything they can to put this together.
Yeah, it was. It was surprising, but then again, I don't think it was real surprising because Nomar had been battling, and at the time, I don't even know if he was active when he got traded. I don't really remember that, but it was one of those things. I think the writing was kind of on the wall, before that. But you know what? Him going, that was we quickly closed the book on him because we can't dwell on what we lost. When we got Orlando Cabrera, he brought another sense of that rejuvenation. Like, he came in there, smiles, and he's chattering, and he was the kind of guy that would never let you sit in the corner by yourself. He's like, hey, let's go, let's get this done. And he was just one of the pieces that they added that and we, like I said, we continued to reach up and go get our goal.
All right, I won't go pitch by pitch in the playoffs, okay? But I do want to go through a couple of moments
because I think
it'd be a long time. It'd be a couple hundred points we'd have to go through. But I do think that your performance in Game 3 against the Angels is often forgotten about, right? You get the last couple of outs of the 8th inning. You come back out in the 9th. I forget who hit the single to start it, but you get the double. You got bases loaded with 1 out. And I think it was Gloss and Anderson, or Anderson and Gloss. I don't remember the order, but you strike them both out with the bases loaded in the 9th inning. What was that like for you? We're talking about, you're here to try to win a World Series, and here you are, getting the Red Sox into extras when Ortiz ultimately hits it with the walk-off. But what was that performance like? And as, a lot of big moments were to come over the next few weeks, but that was a pretty huge one at the time.
Yeah, and it's something that you kind of forget about because it seems like the Angels series was so easy. But, Now you bring it up. It was one of those things. I don't remember, like you said, walked a couple guys, which I don't normally do, but it's one of those things that being in the playoffs a couple times before and being around a little bit, the one thing I've always learned is you can't panic. Really, you're only one pitch from getting out of that inning. And it's once you get your back against the wall, it's like, hey, let's go. This is what you've been training for your whole life. Let's bear down. Let's get back to your game plan. Let's make a few pitches. And those guys, I think I had always fared pretty well against them. So I'm like, keep the ball in the middle of the plate. Let's to run it in on them. Let's get them down and out, and we'll see what happens. And fortunately, it worked out.
Ortiz hits the home run. You win that series. You wait around a couple of days. You find out it's going to be the Yankees. A year ago, you had been sitting home watching Red Sox Yankees in the ALCS. Yeah. You get another crack at them. What was going through your mind going into the season? It really was kind of what you envisioned that prior winter, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's inevitable. It's going to be Yankees Red Sox in the championship series to see who moves on, and I think we kind of got hit in the mouth really early. It's like, holy cow, okay, you lose game one, no big deal. All right, game two, you know what? We've won 3 games in a row before, and all of a sudden, the butt whip, and we took game 3. It was like, again, really, and it got to a point where when game 3 went down, we get in the clubhouse, it's really quiet. But it was like, it almost took the pressure off because it's either you lose and you go home, or you fight and you win, you come back the next day. And all of a sudden it's like, forget it. Let's go out there, have fun. Let's play our game and see what happens. And it's very, a lot of the guys have said it and it's very well publicized, but, the guys in that clubhouse, we never quit. We didn't think, oh, we're going to come back and win the next 4. You know what? Come out tomorrow, let's play good ball, and let's see what happens.
Game 4, we're sitting out on the street doing the pregame show, and I think the Patriots had like a 4 o'clock game, and it's dead. I mean, there's not a soul outside the ballpark. Everyone's in the bars watching the Patriots. Scalpers are trying to get rid of the tickets to Game 4 of the series. Like, there is not a person outside that clubhouse who believes you can get it done. And I know, you look back now because you did it. But going into that game 4, and you had a great performance that night that let it keep going. But can you remember, like you just said, you guys kind of had a what the hell, why not us? Let's just go out there and do it. But can you remember what it was like getting there and being out there before that game? Because I'm telling you, man, from the outside looking in, it was about as desolate as Fenway Park has ever been.
Yeah, and honestly, as a player, it really was. The pressure was off. Because like I said, you're going to be home, laying by the pool in 3 days, or you're going to be continuing to play. So it's like there was nothing to lose for us, obviously I say that, but, it really was. It took the pressure off us. We went back to having fun, some of the breaks started to go our way. And, it's one of those things. You go out there and you play smart ball, don't make mistakes, good pitching, and good things happened. And fortunately, the tide started to turn for us and the pressure started to be on them. And they're the ones that started making the mistakes.
2 2/3 innings from you that night. And there's no margin for error. I mean, you're talking about, right? Every pitch is basically with the season on the line. How gassed were you? I mean, it was the first of 3 consecutive days you pitched. So clearly you weren't too gassed. But what was it like coming out of that game? I mean, you did the job. You wind up moving on and winning to fight another day. How'd you feel after that game 4?
Yeah, after game 4 wasn't that bad, because I had the previous day off, so I was fresh and ready to go. 5 was good. Now game 6 was a different story. Game 6, I was running on fumes, and that's one of those days where I was really proud of myself because I had to dig deep for that. It's like, I want this. The city wants it. I was doing it for my team. We had fought hard to get to that point, and I'm like, come on, kid, make a good pitch. Make a good pitch. Just one pitch at a time, make a good pitch. We made it interesting, but, in the end, it got it done.
Because of the rainout, it winds up being the rainout prior to that stretch. You wind up having 3 straight nights, including, 2 in Fenway, 1 in New York. You threw 100 pitches over those 3 nights. I guess it comes out to 4 innings? 5, right? 5 scoreless innings.
when
Okay.
you put it all together. Was there ever a point? I mean, I know you and I know your personality, and I know the answer is no, that you were never going to say I can't go tonight. But was there concern around you? Like, was Francona worried you might not be able to go the third night?
I don't think he ever asked. And our relationship was good enough right there. It's like, don't ask, you know. The answer is always yes. I mean, it's a kind of a do or die situation. Like, I'll take that ball. I'd have thrown another 10 innings if I had to, because, you know, like I said, that's we wanted it. You know, we wanted it. We were there for that, and there was no way that I was going to be told no.
For me, it was after game 5 when you were going back to New York. I said, you know what? They might pull this off. And I know, like you said before, that the pressure was gone. And going into game 4, you had nothing to lose, right? Because the next loss, it was over.
Yeah.
When did it occur to you, yeah, you might actually pull this off?
Oh, definitely after game 5. You know, game 5 was, you know, like I said, we're going back to New York. This is exactly what we wanted. You know, we backed ourselves in the corner. We were starting to kind of jab our way out. And we knew it's like, hey, we got this, you know. And sometimes I think playing on the road is easier. You know, like I think Kurt Schilling's the one that said, hey, there's nothing better than having 55,000 people boo you. And I agree. I learned to love the negative attention. You know, when people are booing you, that means you're doing something right. And so it's, you know, once we got back there for game 5 and we were able to pull that out, you know, game 6 was a little bit of a grind, but, you know, still nose to the grindstone. Let's get after it. Let's do this.
You got through game 6. Johnny Damon kind of took the drama out of game 7 pretty quickly. How happy were you that this wasn't a one-run nail-biter in the ninth?
I was, I'm sure Johnny was happy. I was pretty happy myself. Although, you know, after it was all said and done, I remember running in from the bullpen. The first person I went in to find was Tito. And I was like, Tito, hey, I should have been the guy on the mound right there. I earned it. I wanted that. And I just remember him looking at me. He goes, kid, you're going to get your chance. So, you know, went off and celebrated, and he was right.
That's incredible. How strange was it to have that celebration on the field at Yankee Stadium, or was that just a beautiful thing for you guys?
It was a beautiful thing, you know, but it was short. I mean, it's not like we stayed there all night and just rubbed it in. It's like, you know, we did it. Let's enjoy this moment. Let's get our trophy, do all your things, right? We still got a job to do. And, you know, I think ultimately that Yankee series prepared us for the World Series, obviously. But it's like, you know, don't take anything for granted. Foot on the gas from pitch one, and let's go get it done.
You know, it's hard to talk about all this without thinking of Tim Wakefield, right? Who we were all so close to. And his performance in game 3 in so many ways set up what you guys were able to do over those 4 nights in October. Just talk a little about, you know, what he did and what he meant to you guys and you know, how much we miss him now.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, what he did for that team, try and do this without breaking up. But, I mean, he was the backbone. You know, he was the heavy. He was the guy we all went to if you had questions. He was the guy on the plane to start bitching at somebody if, you know, if things weren't well. It didn't matter if it's a rookie, if it's a veteran, whatever. He was the backbone of that team. But what he did in game 3, I mean, he saved us. You know, if you know who knows who would have had to pitch to get us through that 9 inning. You know, there's no mercy rule. You got to get your outs one way or the other. And what he did basically saved the rest of the bullpen, you know, to keep gas in the tank for the next few games. And, you know, he's, he'll never be forgotten. And, you know, he was the heavy, you know, he was our boy.
No doubt about that. An incredible win in New York. And I know it meant so much for him because, you know, he had been on the mound at the end the year before, right? And so to get that vengeance in New York was so special for him and for everyone. But as I always said, you know, it would all be a footnote if you lost the World Series. You know, I mean, we were celebrating in Boston like you had won it all. Was there? Yeah. When was that conversation? When were you able to pivot, or was it just something the team took in stride? Like Tech always says, there was never a doubt in my mind we were going to win the World Series. Trust me, there was doubt in everybody else's mind in New England because we've been through some trauma in the past.
Yeah, that's true. But, you know, that's where the 25, 30 guys in that locker room, we thought differently. You know, we pulled out a miracle with the Yankee series. We pulled it out, but we learned from that, right? Do not take this for granted. When we go, we're coming out of the corner punching, and we're never gonna stop until the bell rings. So we learned from that, and even though Game 1 of the World Series was a little sketchy, it's like we never doubted. It's like forward, forward, forward. That's it. Let's go get this done, boys, and do it as quickly as possible.
I'm glad you brought up Game 1, though, because, again, for a little while, that had, here we go again. There were more than a few Bostonians who were going, the errors and the game slipping away. Bellhorn hits the pesky pole. And I feel like that, later, a week later, church bells are ringing around New England, but that ring of the pesky pole was the first church bell to ring in New England. That was a hell of a game.
Yeah, it was. I know personally, I was a little rusty. I think pitching a lot and having a few days off, like I didn't come out nearly as fresh as I wanted to be. But it was again, it was that team. We kind of backed ourselves into a corner where we had a couple errors. I think they tied the game up. But all of a sudden, you get another guy, right? Mark Bellhorn. All of a sudden comes up with a couple big hits. He had a big home run in the Yankee series, and all of a sudden he comes up and he said hits it off the top of that pole, which is one of my favorite pitchers from that entire postseason, by the way. But it was just guys stepping up. Everybody stepped up. Everybody did their job, and that's one of the things that made that team so special. Is one person, two people didn't carry it. I mean, it was truly a team effort.
All right, Game 4, 3-0 lead. You come out to close out the World Series. How do you not let that moment get bigger than it is?
Yeah. Well, as well as things I said earlier, losing, in the previous years, it teaches you a lot. Obviously, I knew what I was doing. Everybody let you know it. But one of the big things that helped me is the bullpen. The bullpen was still straight as could be. Nobody was jumping around with pom poms and stuff. Everybody was just, let's do this. Come on, boys, let's do this. And I'll get emotional, but God, it was so much fun, so much pressure, but when it was done, it was so gratifying. And just for the guys on that team, we worked so hard for that, and I was so proud of us.
All right, the ball comes back to you, and I still remember in real time. So we're at the Old Nesson, which is in Fenway Park, and this is a true story. In 1986, I just started working in television, and I tried to call my parents in Maine with the old rotary phone, right? And
Yeah.
3 times in that game, they were 1 strike away from winning the World Series. So I would dial it all and then wait to make the last number right as the strike, and each time I hung up, right? They never got that last strike. So the running joke in the family was, when they win, I'm going to call you. Well, now I'm working the covered Red Sox games. So we're in studio, and now I got a flip phone, right? It's 2004. I got a flip phone in my hand.
Yeah.
And I call my parents, my whole family's at the house up in Maine, and we have the moment we've been waiting, since 1986. And I hang up, and as I hang up, my phone immediately rings, and it's my wife calling with our son, and he's 8 years old. And that was what, to me, makes this so special. My son was 8, I was 40, my dad was 80-something. And it was the first World Series win in all 3 of our lifetimes. So literally 3 generations celebrating their first championship. Now, I say all that because as I hung up, this is as the ball's going to you. As I hung up, the first thing I thought of was he's going to throw it away. They're going to give up 4, and I called too soon. I jinxed the whole thing because that's how we thought, right? That's what we thought. We would jinx everything. But you didn't. So thank you. Thank you for getting it over to first. The ball comes back to you. Are you blacking out at that moment, or do you remember moment by moment how that went down?
Well, I remember it pretty well, and it all started off when Pujols hit a single. He went 5-hole on me to start the inning, right? So, anyways, we fast forward, and when I made the pitch, I didn't think he was going to swing at it because it was really a terrible pitch. And then when he put it in play, all I thought was, don't let this ball get by you. I mean, I'm jumping on my legs and elbows everywhere. I snow cone the ball because it's starting to speed up pretty good. But I remember gathering it and starting over to first, and my verbiage was probably a little bit different, but just don't screw this up, right? the thoughts of screwing that up went through my mind very quickly, kind of double pump the pump. But I remember as soon as I let it go, like I don't even think I saw it hit Minkiewicz's mitt. As soon as I let it go, I just immediately turned around and looked for Tech and like, oh my God, we did this. Incredible.
He comes running literally into your arms. I was afraid you would get seriously injured at that moment. I mean,
and he's not a little man either.
No.
Yeah.
What are you thinking as you're holding him? What is going through your mind?
I don't even. Oh well, I remember I didn't feel him. He was okay. And I think it's when everybody else got there, jumped on my back. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And my only thought was, don't go to the ground. I didn't want to be on the bottom of a dog pile, so I was fighting to stay on my feet. And stumbled around. And once everybody got there, we kind of, it was just like a big log jam. But it was literally like the weight of the world had been falling off our shoulders, and by far the greatest moment of my life. So I mean, it was just absolutely breathtaking and incredible.
The party goes, the hotel, the plane, the bus, you get back to Fenway, and nobody in Boston has slept, right? We're all just partying around the ballpark. When did it hit you what this meant to the people of Boston?
Oh, the parade. I mean, hands down, the parade was the most, I don't even know how to put it in words. It was the most overwhelming moments of my life. I mean, to have that many people come out and support you, we knew what we did. We knew there was all the generational stuff, but when you see, whatever it was, 4 million people, I mean, how often do you see 4 million people in one place? Never, right? It was the most overwhelming thing of my life. I mean, again, it gets to me, and was so grateful to see. They're grateful for us. We're grateful for them for all the support and all that. And, being able to, like you talked about with your father and your son, it was, to be able to help people put that, those demons to rest, it was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, I've been around you guys enough. It's incredible watching people come up to thank you because that just meant so much. And it really did. It brought families together. It brought generations together. It was one of the great celebrations. It's hard to imagine it's been 20 years. You're doing interviews like this maybe more right now because of the Netflix thing, right? We're talking about it more. Has it kind of brought a lot of it back to you? You've been thinking more about it this October?
Yeah, it's, we've had a lot of negative things, the Red Sox family and members passing and all that. And it's, so there's been, you try to build it up, and the season wasn't very good, and, you think about Wakefield, and now we got, Louis has passed, and you think about the members of the Red Sox family. So kind of this year, you're like, let's get this year done. Let's get past it. The Netflix thing is going to be, kind of a bright spot at the end of this year. And we've all, we're waiting for it. It debuts quickly, and we're all kind of excited to see it.
Yeah, it's a good way to, we're all watching the Yankees in the playoffs, and I'm like, I need this Netflix series now because I'd rather be watching that than watching this ALCS.
Right? Yeah,
Keith,
we need that positive. We need that positive.
We need positivity. We need a happy New England October. Well, this Netflix series is going to bring it to a lot of people. Keith, it's been great catching up. We appreciate the time. Always fun running down memory lane with you. Thanks for joining us.
TC, I appreciate it always, buddy. We'll see you down the road.
All right, the great closer, Keith Foulke. 20 years ago, he and an incredible band of what Johnny Damon called idiots, I will call tremendous baseball players. The 2004 World Series champions, The Comeback, coming on Netflix this week. Thanks for catching this edition of 310 to Left. We'll see you next time.